Have you ever wondered why some stories stick in your mind long after you hear them? It turns out that authenticity is the key. Studies show that 92% of consumers trust content that feels genuine over overly polished narratives. Shocking, right? In a world full of filtered images and perfect lives, real stories cut through the noise. Think about this: people remember only 10% of what they hear, but if they hear it in a story, they remember 70%. That's the power of storytelling. When you share your true self, people connect more deeply. They want to hear your real experiences, not just the shiny highlights. In this video, we will dive into the magic of imperfection, the strength of unfiltered emotions, and the importance of unresolved endings. You'll learn how to turn your messy moments into magnetic stories that resonate. By the end, you'll see that authenticity isn't just a nice idea, it's a powerful tool that can transform how you connect with others. So, are you ready to discover why authentic stories always win? Let's jump in. Chapter 1: The Magic of Imperfection. How flaws create connection. One of the biggest mistakes storytellers make is trying to be perfect. But guess what? People don't connect with perfect. They connect with real. Studies show that 94% of consumers are more loyal to brands that are transparent. Why? Because when we see flaws, we see humanity. In storytelling, it's the same. Your audience doesn't need to hear the polished, Instagram-ready version of your life. They want the messy bits. Let's take the example of Brené Brown, who became a household name after talking about her struggles with vulnerability. Her TED Talk, which was full of raw emotion and personal stories, has been viewed over 60 million times. She didn't have all the answers, but that's what made her relatable. This is where the magic of imperfection comes in. When you tell a story, don't be afraid to leave in the cracks. These imperfections are what make your story real and relatable. Imagine you're telling a story about a failed project at work. Instead of glossing over the frustration and stress, share the moments where you doubted yourself. Research from Dr. Emma Sepala at Stanford shows that storytelling with emotion activates the listener's brain more deeply, making them feel connected to the story. Think about your favorite characters in movies or books. They're often flawed, right? It's not their perfection we love. It's their struggles, their quirks, and their growth. Embrace your own imperfections when telling stories. It's these elements that make your audience lean in, because they see themselves in you. Remember, imperfection creates connection. Chapter 2: Embrace the awkward moments. Why real life is relatable. Life isn't smooth, and neither should your stories be. If you've ever told a joke that didn't land or stumbled over your words, congratulations, you've just become more relatable. People love awkward moments because they reflect real life. We've all had them, and sharing these awkward experiences helps others feel seen. A Harvard Business Review study found that people are more likely to trust and admire someone who makes a mistake, as long as it's not something critical. This is known as the pratfall effect. It's why sharing a story about an awkward encounter at a party or a clumsy moment during a presentation can actually boost your credibility as a storyteller. The beauty of these moments lies in their unpredictability. Your audience will expect something polished, but when you share an awkward moment, it breaks the script. It's refreshing. Plus, it's funny. We've all been in those embarrassing situations, and by sharing yours, you invite the audience to laugh with you, not at you. Take Issa Rae, for example. Her hit show Insecure thrives on awkwardness and cringe-worthy moments. It's not just about laughing at her character's missteps, it's about seeing ourselves in them. When we see someone else trip up, we're reminded that we're not alone in our own awkwardness. So, next time you're tempted to clean up your story, don't. Embrace those clumsy, uncomfortable moments. They'll make you more human, and far more relatable. Chapter 3: From Messy to Magnetic, Turning Real Experiences into Gold. Some of the best stories come from our messiest experiences. Think about it: how often have you heard someone tell a story about something going perfectly? Probably not often, because those stories are forgettable. It's the unexpected twists, the messy middles, and the hard-won victories that stick with us. According to psychologist Paul J. Zak, stories with tension and conflict cause our brains to release oxytocin, a chemical linked to empathy. This means that when you share the messy parts of your life, your audience not only listens but they feel your story. It's no wonder people love to hear tales of personal growth, failed attempts, and eventual success. It's magnetic. To make your story more compelling, focus on the turning points, the moments when everything felt out of control. For example, let's say you're sharing a story about starting a business. Don't just talk about your success. Dive into the moments of doubt, the sleepless nights, and the near failures. When you do, your audience will feel the tension you experienced. It's like taking them on a journey, where they experience the highs and lows with you. One of the most powerful tools you have as a storyteller is contrast. The messier the middle, the sweeter the resolution. But the trick is not to make it feel like a fairy tale. Show that success didn't come overnight. Highlight the hard work and persistence. A Stanford University study found that stories that involve personal struggle resonate deeply because they activate both the cognitive and emotional parts of the brain. This makes your story memorable, not just in the moment, but long after it's been told. So, the next time you think your story is too messy to share, think again. The mess is where the magic happens. It's what makes your story magnetic and gives it weight. If you're finding these insights helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more storytelling tips and tricks that can transform your narrative skills. Chapter 4: The Power of Unfiltered Emotions. How raw honesty captivates. When it comes to storytelling, emotions are everything. But here's the thing: people can sense when you're holding back. Raw, unfiltered emotions hit harder than rehearsed lines because they feel real. In fact, a study from the Journal of Consumer Research found that emotional stories are 22 times more memorable than those just filled with facts. That's because emotions make your story stick in the audience's mind. You don't need to be dramatic to show unfiltered emotion. It's about honesty. If you're telling a story about a loss, lean into the sadness and grief. If it's about a victory, let the excitement shine through. Don't downplay your feelings. We're wired to respond to vulnerability. The University of Michigan found that vulnerability is a key driver of empathy, which helps form deep connections between the storyteller and the audience. Take Oprah Winfrey, for example. When she speaks, she often lets her emotions flow freely. Whether she's talking about childhood trauma or her successes, she's not afraid to show how she really feels. This authenticity is part of what makes her one of the most beloved storytellers in the world. People relate to her because she's not hiding behind a polished facade. So, how can you do the same? Start by identifying the core emotion behind your story. Is it fear? Joy? Anger? Then, instead of trying to control it, let it guide your narrative. You don't have to be overly dramatic, but let your audience feel what you're feeling. When you share from a place of raw honesty, your audience will be captivated. They'll feel like they're right there with you, experiencing the same emotions you did. Chapter 5: Forget the perfect ending. Why unresolved stories stick. We've been trained to think that every story needs a tidy ending. But in real life, not everything gets wrapped up neatly. Sometimes, the best stories are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers. It turns out, audiences love unresolved stories because they keep thinking about them long after they've been told. In fact, research from Claremont Graduate University shows that open-ended stories stimulate curiosity, encouraging the brain to work harder to fill in the gaps. That means when you leave your audience with a bit of mystery or an open question, you're giving them something to chew on. It makes your story linger in their mind. Think about films like Inception or books like The Road by Cormac McCarthy. They don't give you all the answers, and that's part of what makes them unforgettable. They stay with you because they leave space for interpretation. In storytelling, this is a powerful tool. You don't need to wrap every detail up neatly. Sometimes, leaving a thread hanging can make your audience more engaged. Let's say you're sharing a personal story about a major decision you're facing. Instead of telling the audience what you chose, end the story with the dilemma still unresolved. Ask them what they would do in your shoes. This invites them into the story and keeps them thinking long after the telling. You don't have to be afraid of leaving things open-ended. Unresolved stories can make your audience reflect on their own experiences and engage with your narrative on a deeper level. By not tying up every loose end, you create a story that sticks. If you enjoyed these insights and want to learn more about authentic storytelling, don't forget to subscribe for future videos that will help you master the art of storytelling.